Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know first, Ukraine's robotic warfare revolution sees soldiers surrender to machines as land robots now handle 90% of army logistics. So we'll discuss why this agile development model is a game changer and what it means for the future of modern combat. Second, a $25,000 Chinese SUV tested by Edmunds is ahead of US cars, but a 100% tariff blocks it from the American market. We'll explore how this technology and price gap could transform industry practices and what it signals for US automakers. Third, Anthropic blocks popular AI agent OpenClaw after its creator joins rival OpenAI, highlighting extreme platform risk for startups. We'll analyze why this move is a turning point and how it could affect the competitive dynamics between AI ecosystems. Fourth, a SpaceX killer rocket from Chinese firm Space Pioneer fails its maiden flight, highlighting a critical software gap in reusability. Today, we'll take a closer look at this setback and its implications for the global race to build reusable rockets. Fifth, NASA's Artemis 2 mission to the moon was interrupted by a Microsoft Outlook failure, turning mission control into a remote IT desk. This discussion will reveal how using commercial software in space connects to a larger trend and what it means for mission-critical systems. A Ukrainian drone operator just described the Frontline, and it's not what you think. His words, "It's not Star Wars. The Frontline is more like Terminator. A land robot arrives at your position and there is nothing you can do about it." And it's not just a metaphor. For the first time in warfare, Russian soldiers have actually surrendered to an armed Ukrainian ground robot. What makes this a true turning point isn't just the tech, it's the psychology. For a soldier, surrendering to a machine is jarring. International law, like the Geneva Conventions, was written for humans and has no clear rules for this. Who is legally responsible if that surrender goes wrong? It's a brand new ethical and legal battlefield. The core of this new reality is simple and terrifying. As one soldier put it, if you shoot a ground robot, it doesn't feel pain. There is a guy looking at a screen who is going to fire back. But that's not the whole picture. The sheer scale of this robotic revolution is what's truly staggering. Land robots now account for around 90% of Ukrainian army logistics. In January, the military carried out over 7,000 operations using these unmanned ground vehicles, or UGVs. Now, get this. This didn't happen by accident. Ukraine has created what experts are calling a wartime agile development model. They've built a unique ecosystem where engineers and frontline soldiers work side by side. Since 2022, the number of Ukrainian companies building UGVs has gone from 0 to over 200. An initiative called Brave One is at the center of it all, fast-tracking new designs from an idea to the battlefield in just a few months, a process that would take years in a traditional military. These aren't just delivery bots either. One kamikaze robot carrying 200 kilograms of explosives travelled 12 miles to destroy a building used by Russian troops. Another armed system defended a single position for 45 straight days. The entire strategy is built around one core conflict: machines versus human casualties. Ukraine is losing about 3 robots a day, an attrition rate of 25%, but an official calls this a small price to pay to save the lives of their infantry. And the cold logic of that statement becomes undeniable when you look at the numbers. The cost to train a single Ukrainian soldier can be up to $7,000. A disposable ground robot, on the other hand, might cost between $8,000 and $20,000. When you compare the strategic and human cost of losing a soldier to the financial cost of a replaceable machine, this new warfare becomes chillingly clear. The change is happening so fast. One soldier said seeing a supply robot roll up to his dugout felt like being a caveman gazing at alien technology. This is no longer an experiment. A Ukrainian lieutenant stated it plainly, "This is what modern warfare looks like. Armies everywhere will have to robotize." A commander on the ground says Ukraine is on the verge of another revolution, predicting that ground-based robotic systems will radically change the battlefield and replace a significant share of soldiers, both in logistics and in direct combat. Here's where it gets interesting. This is kicking off a dedicated robot versus anti-robot arms race. As these UGVs become more common, both sides are now developing specialized tactics and electronic warfare systems just to counter them. We're seeing the emergence of new weapons designed specifically to jam, disable, or destroy these ground machines. pushing warfare into yet another new unnerving chapter. From the front lines of robotic warfare, we now turn to the battleground of the global auto market, where a different kind of technological gap is causing alarm. A top car reviewer just tested a Chinese SUV and delivered a chilling warning for US automakers. His exact words, "The vehicle's features are ahead of the vehicles that we're driving in the US." That quote comes directly from the editor-in-chief of Edmunds. For the first time ever, they put a Chinese vehicle, the Geely Galaxy M9, through their full, rigorous testing process. And the results are a bombshell. Let's start with the price. In China, this SUV starts at about $25,000. For that price, it offers an estimated 808 miles of driving range, a massive 30-inch infotainment screen, and even a built-in fridge. Edmunds found the technology was as responsive as a Tesla's. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. We're seeing a fundamental difference in design philosophy. In China's hyper-competitive market, the car is seen as a smart living space first and transportation second. Research shows that for GANs, the Internesters, the in-car entertainment system is now more influential than the price or even the car's exterior design. This consumer electronics first approach is a stark contrast to the more utility-focused design we're used to from Western automakers. Their official evaluation concluded the Galaxy M9 rivals American market vehicles that cost twice its price. Edmunds stated that even if the car was sold in the US at double its Chinese price, it would still be competitive. So what's the catch? These cars are effectively banned from the US market by regulations and tariffs around 100%. The official justification for that wall boils down to significant national security concerns. The worry is that these connected cars with their advanced sensors and data systems could be used to collect vast amounts of information on American citizens and infrastructure and send it back to China. The US Commerce Department even launched an investigation into these risks, citing the potential for remote surveillance or even disabling of vehicles. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer of strategy at play. A recent survey shows US consumers are increasingly open to buying Chinese brands, with some even trying to figure out how to get them across the border from Mexico. But for anyone thinking of creating their own automotive grey market, it's not that simple. Any vehicle imported into the US that wasn't built for this market must be modified to meet strict federal motor vehicle safety standards and EPA emissions requirements. This can be incredibly expensive and complicated. There's an exception for cars older than 25 years, but that obviously doesn't apply to a brand new SUV like the M9. You'd also run into practical headaches like different charging plug standards and scarce parts and service support. The technology itself represents a major challenge. The M9 is an extended range hybrid, a system Chinese automakers have been perfecting for years, while major US companies like Ford and Stellantis are only now planning to introduce similar technology. This isn't just a minor tech gap, it's the result of a huge strategic bet. US automakers went all in on pure electric vehicles, assuming consumers would adopt them quickly. But they misjudged the public's range anxiety and the slow rollout of charging infrastructure. Meanwhile, Chinese automakers perfected these extended range hybrids, which offer hundreds of miles of electric range before a small gas engine kicks in. The proof is in the numbers. In China, sales of these extended range vehicles are growing nearly 4 times faster than sales of pure EVs. US companies are now scrambling to play catch up. This test from Edmunds pulls back the curtain on a protected market. According to one industry analyst, the world is seeing some of the most innovative automotive products at the lowest prices, keeping them out of the US. Completely is a strategy that he warns will eventually upset American consumers. Speaking of fierce competition and building walls, a similar dynamic is playing out in the AI industry, but this time it's a conflict between two American giants. A major AI company just effectively banned a wildly popular tool from its platform right after that tool's creator went to work for their number one competitor. This is a power move in the AI wars. The company is Anthropic, and the tool is OpenClaw, an AI agent that exploded in popularity for managing everything from your inbox to your flight check-ins. Until now, subscribers to Anthropic's Claude AI could use OpenClaw as part of their plan, but that's over. Anthropic just announced that users will now have to pay extra with a separate pay-as-you-go option. a move that makes using the tool dramatically more expensive. But the real turning point is the timing. This decision comes right after OpenClaw's creator, Peter Steinberger, joined Anthropic's chief rival, OpenAI, specifically to lead the development of personal AI agents. So from Anthropic's perspective, their main competitor just hired the brain behind a popular tool that relies on their own AI. This makes the situation look less like a simple policy update and more like direct competitive retaliation. And what really brought this to a head was the behind-the-scenes tension. Steinberger himself went public, stating that he and his board member tried to talk sense into Anthropic. Best we managed was delaying this for a week. That 1 week delay shows just how fast this decision was pushed through. So what's Anthropic's official line? An executive claims their subscriptions weren't built for the usage patterns of third-party tools and that they're managing capacity. Now, this might sound like a corporate excuse, but there's a genuine technical issue at play. You see, an autonomous agent like OpenClaw uses an AI model in a completely different way than a human using a chatbot. An agent works on its own. It plans, makes decisions, and performs complex, multi-step tasks, which can lead to a massive number of API calls and an exponential increase in resource consumption. Think of it as the difference between asking one question versus having a researcher work around the clock. And that fundamental difference in usage is now creating a new business model for AI. We're seeing the start of market-wide price segmentation. Simple interactive chat will have one price, but high-frequency autonomous agent usage will be billed at a significant premium. We already see this happening. A basic model like OpenAI's GPT-4o Mini costs just 15 cents per million input tokens, while a more powerful model like Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet costs $3 for the same amount. That's a 20-fold difference. Anthropic says they're prioritizing customers using their own products and are even encouraging users to try their in-house tools. They're offering subscribers a one-time credit, but the message is clear. After all, this whole episode perfectly illustrates a huge danger for tech startups called platform risk. OpenClaw built its business on Anthropic's platform, and with one policy change, its business model was turned upside down. We saw it years ago when Twitter and Facebook suddenly changed their API rules, crippling third-party apps. But the AI space is proving to be even more volatile, with just a few giant companies holding all the power. That kind of high-stakes rivalry isn't just confined to software. In the race to dominate space, one of SpaceX's biggest potential competitors just watched its rocket fail on its very first flight. The company is Beijing-based Space Pioneer, and their rocket, the Tianlong 3, was supposed to be a direct answer to Elon Musk's Falcon 9. But this failure isn't just about one company, it's about a risky strategy. Many new Chinese space companies are attempting what you could call a great leap forward. Instead of starting small and learning from mistakes, they're aiming to build a Falcon 9 equivalent right out of the gate. For comparison, SpaceX started with the much smaller Falcon 1. It failed 3 times before it finally succeeded, but those failures provided critical data that made the Falcon 9 possible. And when we talk about these private Chinese companies, the reality on the ground is much more complex. While Space Pioneer is technically private, it operates in a system of deep collaboration with the Chinese state and military. So this isn't a simple private sector race like we see in the US. It's more of a state-guided competition where national goals are paramount. After a fundraising round of nearly $363 million, the company hyped the rocket as a game changer, but the maiden flight failed, and the company offered few details. If that was just the appetizer, the main course is just being served, this isn't the first major setback for the Tianlong 3 program. Just weeks after a separate fundraising round, the first stage of a different Tianlong 3 rocket detached from its launch pad during a test due to a structural failure, landing in a hilly area. This previous failure is so significant because it highlights the hidden cost. It happened in Henan province, and the rocket crashed about a mile from the test site, starting a fire. Thankfully, the area was evacuated and no one was hurt. But it's a stark contrast to the US, which almost exclusively uses coastal launch sites like Cape Canaveral to ensure any failures happen over the ocean. This all comes down to the high-stakes battle for reusable rockets. The ability to launch, recover, and reuse a rocket is the key to slashing launch costs. But the secret sauce that makes reusability so incredibly difficult isn't just about building powerful engines. The real gap is often in the software. To land a rocket booster falling from the edge of space, you need unbelievably sophisticated guidance, navigation, and control, or GNC software. This software has to make thousands of real-time calculations to steer the rocket to a precise landing. The challenge for companies like Space Pioneer isn't just matching the hardware, it's mastering the complex digital brain that makes the whole thing work. Space Pioneer claimed its Tianlong 3 was capable of putting 36 satellites into orbit per launch, crucial for China's ambition to build its own satellite constellations. But the failure highlights a staggering gap. While SpaceX has proven its reusability across hundreds of launches, this second mishap for the Tianlong 3 underscores a critical reality. Despite a national push and a race among developers, the fact remains: no Chinese firm has yet demonstrated the ability to recover and reuse a rocket's main stage. While some are struggling with the monumental task of just getting a rocket off the ground, NASA is dealing with a very different and surprisingly familiar set of problems on its way to the moon. The commander of the Artemis 2 mission, hurtling through deep space, just ran into a problem we all know too well. His Microsoft Outlook wasn't working. Interestingly enough, using everyday software like Outlook on a multi-billion-dollar lunar mission is a deliberate choice. It's a strategy that presents a fascinating duality. On one side, NASA gets access to the latest commercial tech for a fraction of the cost of building it from scratch. On the other, it introduces inherent risks, because a Microsoft Surface isn't designed for the harsh radiation of deep space, which can cause these exact kinds of glitches. In a conversation captured live from the spacecraft, Commander Reed Wiseman reported back to Mission Control, "I also see that I have 2 Microsoft Outlooks and neither one of those are working. This wasn't a simple fix. To solve the problem, NASA's Mission Control had to become a remote IT help desk, remotely accessing the commander's Microsoft Surface Pro from hundreds of thousands of miles away." Now, you might be wondering, how do you securely run a remote desktop session to a computer that's halfway to the moon? NASA uses a highly specialized protocol called delay disruption tolerant networking. It's like a super smart interplanetary internet that expects to be interrupted. It can store packets of data and forward them when a connection is available, all while being heavily encrypted. They use the same complex satellite systems designed for deep space communication to troubleshoot a basic email client. The reason a stable connection is so tricky is that the spacecraft is constantly moving and Earth is rotating, so the connection has to be handed off between different ground stations. These handoffs can cause brief dropouts, just like when your phone switches cell towers, which can cause a program like Outlook to crash. And you might assume this was a shocking one-time crisis, but according to Artemis flight director Judd Freeling, this is actually not uncommon. He said that sometimes Outlook has issues and NASA essentially just had to reload the astronauts' files, a procedure they perform regularly for the space station. There's a good reason they take it so seriously. History shows these not uncommon glitches can escalate. In 2007, for example, computers on the International Space Station that control critical life support systems failed. More recently, software errors on the Boeing Starliner test flight were so severe they could have led to a catastrophic failure. These past events are exactly why NASA has procedures in place for even a simple Outlook problem. This incident pulls back the curtain on the surprisingly familiar tech aboard this historic mission. The crew is also equipped with Nikon D5 cameras, GoPro cameras to film a Disney and National Geographic documentary, and were even allowed to bring their personal phones stowed in their spacesuit pockets. This isn't just for show. It signals a fundamental shift in public engagement. The Apollo missions had a very controlled media strategy, but for Artemis, NASA is actively turning its astronauts into real-time content creators, fostering a deeper public connection to space exploration. It's a stunning reminder that as humanity pushes the boundaries of exploration, some digital hurdles remain universal, turning the world's most advanced space agency into a high-stakes tech support hotline.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.